like if you're not getting enough sunlight for your crops, there's still one more thing that you can rely on, which seems to be the mountain Yoshino. Maybe this is the reason why they planted cherries, because they would last longer. What do you guys think about that haiku?
It seemed to be too much for me. I didn't understand it at all.
You want me to repeat it one more time?
You go for it.
Cloud bank curling low. Ah, the mountain Yoshino, cherry cumulus.
I don't even know what that mountain is, and I'm not
So
quite sure what cherry
it sounds to be Japanese. Do you want to look it up?
What was the name of it?
Mountain Yoshino.
That's a pretty deep haiku.
Right?
Yeah.
They started to get more and more like specific. Like if you don't understand exactly, like I don't know what Mount Yoshino. What is it? Yoshinoyama?
Yoshino.
Yeah, I think that's abbreviation. It is Japan.
It is Japan, right?
Yeah. Guess they have a lot of cherry blossoms in.
They're known for.
There you go. Well, thank you guys for joining us back on the podcast today. Today we have our special friend, Luis Lopez. Luis, we've had you. I think it was last year. We had you on the podcast. We talked a little bit about money and business and everything. We sat down with Robert and Gilbert. Since then, the last time I saw you was at my bachelor party. We hung out the entire day. It was cool that you took us down to the naval base over there. I've never been, and having that experience with the air show was pretty intense, man. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, no problem, man. Anytime you want to come down, have access to a lot of bases.
Cool, man. So what have you been up to, man?
Ever since that time, I've just been kind of just living. When I don't remember what month was it when we went last year. Like October?
It must have been mid-October.
Yeah, so a lot of things have changed ever since. Both on a personal life, on a professional life, on an entrepreneur life. I mean, it's been pretty interesting.
Well, that sounds exciting, man.
Yeah. At work, I took a new position at my 9-to-5 job, which kind of has challenged me in many ways. And then but the biggest news would be my daughter here showing up here in June.
Oh man.
Yeah, that's a story in itself already. Just that,
You excited?
Heck yeah, I'm excited.
Of course, right?
Yeah, it's one of those things, I've never been a big person that was focused on, having a family, getting married, or anything like that. It was just, I just kind of did things just as they came and whatever my heart felt. And but it's an interesting experience to know that you created a life with somebody else, somebody that you love, and now this person's going to come into the world, and you're responsible to show them pretty much how to be a good person, and just you start thinking about everything you've been through, and you're like, man, I got to tell her about this, I got to tell her about that, I got to tell her about that. It's an interesting experience. It's something that you have to go through it to understand.
Right. Yeah, everybody says that you're never really prepared for it until you can never really prepare for life after kids, right?
Right.
It's something that just to touch a little bit on that. How have you been preparing for this?
Like I said, I don't really, I don't know, to be honest with you. The way I look at it is this. I think that everything that you do, every single experience in your life is going to give you some sort of skill set that you might utilize in the future, whether it be something that you want to do again or something that you don't want to do again, right?
Right.
And through my life, I come from a different country. My family situation with my mom and my dad, with my mom being a single mother for a very long time, I had an alcoholic father. All of that gave me experiences to this moment that I'm going to be able to use this moment, right?
Right.
But not even just that, just at work, working at a restaurant for 7 years, joining the military and all the things that I did there and being in charge of, people there. Even my recent, promotion at my job, that experience right there alone already gives me some sort of skill set that when I really think about everything I've done, everything I'm going through, I think that in itself is already preparing me to be able to raise my child to pretty much accomplish whatever she wants, or at least to have the confidence that I didn't have when I was a young kid.
Wow. Man, I couldn't have put it in better words, man. That's great.
Yeah.
You sound like you know what you're doing, man.
Uh,
I no, I know you're gonna say no because, like you said, you're just kind of going through the motions as they come, right? But
yeah,
it,
I mean, seriously, I can plan all day long and I can talk about all this stuff, but at the end of the day, she has a mind of her own. You know what I mean? So
right,
that's gonna be the challenge right there, to be able to kind of stay level headed and understand that at the end of the day, regardless of her age, regardless of she's my daughter, regardless of what I like, at the end of the day, she's going to have her own mind. You know what I mean?
that
So
right,
something that I can't, I'm not prepared for that. But I think that I am prepared to show her or teach her, and kind of bring her into the team environment that is a family, right? And bring her on board as a new team member and show her the ropes of how we do things here and show her the basics. What comes to my mind is always brilliance in the basics. I learned that a while ago, and that's what I'm really excited to show her. But what she does with those basics, after that's the tough part, because now you're touching into somebody that you care about and you've been through so many experiences and you want to help them out in life, but at the end of the day, they're going to make their own decisions. So now it's more touching on, how's my ego going to be hurt? How's my pride going to be hurt? Because this particular individual that I happen to love so much didn't do what I taught them to do. You know what I
right,
mean?
yeah,
So that right there is going to be interesting, and I'm really looking forward to it.
and that seems to be a reoccurring issue with parents, right? That they're always like, for instance, like my mom's always telling me, "Hey, when I was a kid, you have to do this, don't do that. You have to do this, don't do that." And at the end of the day, it was up to me if I wanted to take the advice or not.
Right.
And it's not until now that I appreciate the advice because now my prefrontal cortex has developed, fully developed, I think, and now I understand why she was telling me that. Now that I'm preparing to have my own kid too, and yeah, man. I mean, Greg, can you attest to that? You've been a father for about 3 years now.
Um, well, when I don't know, I kind of jumped into it. I call it in a cheating way, because when my first kid was already born when I met him, he's not my actual son, but I was a stepdad, and so he was already one years old, getting out of diapers. Yeah, he was in diapers for like a year, and so I didn't have to go through the whole birthing process. I didn't know anything about that. And then I went through the stage where he starts to learn to talk. I didn't have to deal with the crying, staying up, making sure he was fed. At this point, it was him telling me I'm hungry. So when it came to my son, when he was born, I I was not as scared or not like worried about anything. I was just kind of like, okay, when he's born, you do the things that you have to do every day. People overthink it, I think.
Really?
They totally overthink it, and you can only do day to day, especially with a kid. Like, there's no planning 5 years ahead. You don't know what the kid's gonna do.
Yeah.
You never know. Like, we went in and got what I forget what the screening's called, to test like if they have if like they have all their body parts, and if there can be any uh, like if they have any diseases, or not diseases. Babies don't have diseases. Any medical issues that could be coming, and he had nothing. Then the last like year or two, now they're saying that he may have like autism and things like that. So you never know what can happen year by year, day to day. So there's no reason to worry about it.
Yeah, I think the Western civilization, the more educated that people get, they tend to have less kids. I forgot where I saw that statistic, but I think it correlates to the fear of, well, it's like an 18-year-old process that you have to go through. They think about it like, like I myself have been thinking about it. I'm like, dude, I have to commit to this for at least 20 years, 18 years, what's like, I don't know what's going to happen within those 18 years. I don't know if the kid's going to be a good kid, or if he's going to be constantly getting in trouble or whatever. And that's been probably one of the main reasons why to this day I still haven't had a kid, because I feel like maybe I haven't prepared enough for it. But the more I talk to friends who now are having kids and who have had kids, they tell me the same things. Like, hey, like, you can never prepare for this. You just have to go through it, and it's an experience of its own. And I mean, yeah, what do you guys think about that?
I agree. I think that when you have a child, you're either you can never prepare to what's to come, because, like I said, they have their own mind, right? You don't know what they're gonna do in 5 years. I don't know what my daughter's gonna do in the next 3 years or the year. I have no idea. We bought some stuff, and we have like a little swinger that does it, on its own, kind of automatic.
Yeah.
I don't know if we're gonna like that or not. I would love to be in there. You know what I mean? But I think that at the end of the day, we have to pay attention to their behavior, and just kind of adapt and to each every day, like Greg just said. It's just by the day. But what has to remain consistent are the values that you're going to teach this brand new human being, pretty much, right? And then the other part of that, I think that is very difficult, is I personally don't feel scared. I don't feel nervous. I think personally, I feel like I'm ready to have a child, because I don't miss going out. I don't need to go out and have fun. I don't, my wife is the same way. Like, we don't need that mentality that we actually want to have a child. Like, we share and share our experiences in our life. And sometimes you come across people that, I'm not going to say young, because it's across the board. Sometimes you come across people that have children, but they don't want to give up their life. And that's where it becomes more of a struggle. Again, it goes back to pride. It goes back to what I want, what you want, so on and so forth. So I think, overall, you can't really prepare. You just got to be, like you said, am I really ready to commit for another 18 years? That's a really good question to ask. My position, I'm ready to commit. I got nothing else to do. So
it's what people would call settling down, right?
Sure.
Like,
yeah.
Let's see how many of you can settle down when you have a kid.
What does that mean?
Dude, at the time when I settle down, aka sit down, it's not settling. Someone's smacking you in the face, kicking you in the rib. There's no settling.
That's funny, man. Luis, you mentioned that you would be teaching your daughter the basics. Like, what do you consider the basics for yourself, if you don't mind me asking?
I think first and foremost for me, it's number one is faith. You have to have faith, and it really goes into for me specifically the Catholic faith, and that's really important. So that's number one. Number two, I think that another basic essential when it comes to what I want to teach her is just really teach her about the world. Teach her about, I can't run around and tell her, hey, everything's pretty, everything's going to be fine, everything's going to be great. I have to teach her the realities of this world at a very early age,
Right.
when she's a baby. Even if, I hear this all the time. I hear it, he's just a kid, he's just doing kid stuff, they don't understand. And I personally don't believe that. I believe that at the beginning of their life, they are sponges, and they're going to pick up on your emotions more than anything. Your emotions, your vocabulary, your actions, what you watch, what you listen to, how you fall asleep. They're picking up on everything,
Patterns, right? The
Yeah.
routines. Mm-hmm.
So it's very important for me to number one speak, but when I say things, also back it up with my actions, right? And also my emotional state is very, very important. And that's going to teach her more of the basics more than me actually saying things.
Right.
Other than that, I mean, she's going to experience a lot of things. She's going to experience, playing sports. She's going to experience, liking boys eventually, right? So all those things are going to come as they go, but at least when she gets to these particular experiences in life, she's going to have the basics to understand, okay, this is where my faith is at. I see how my mother and my father got along. I saw how they resolved their problems. I saw how they talked through things. I saw that my father always opened the door for my mom, and how respectful he was to women, right? To his mom, his sister,
Right.
cousin, case maybe. I saw how my mom, really attended to the house and making sure. That's what I mean when I say the basics. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that's very important. Wouldn't you say that, that she one day she's gonna hold those standards to herself from
Yeah.
her future partner, from friends. Yeah, I think that's a very important point. And also, something that you mentioned is that that everything you say, you're gonna back it up with your actions. The more and more I look into our culture, and specifically I wouldn't just say the American culture, but more specifically the Hispanic culture. All our parents say, "Go to school, go to school, go to school," but all you see them do is work. So when my nephews or my brothers and then we never really focused on school. We were always just thinking about work and where we're going to be the next year, not even the next 5 years, next 10 years. We never planned because that's all we heard. Oh, just go to school, go to school. But it meant like we took it as, in the context of just go to school. Like that's just something that you have to go through. But it wasn't anything about learning. Understand what you're learning, understand what school is teaching you. It was nothing about that. It was just saying go to school. So for us it went in through one ear and out the other. And yeah, that's something that I plan to change and break the cycle for when I have kids. It's teaching them how to understand the world, not just live in it, you know?
Critical thinking is very important. You just mentioned that, and that's something that's really, really, really missing. When I sit back and pay attention to the way I grew up, I didn't really follow the crowd at all, and I still this day I don't follow the crowd. I don't like that because that's more of a herd mentality, and it's very dangerous to get caught up in that because you end up following people that um, may not be walking in the same path that you're trying to get to, right? So
Right.
it is difficult to stand out and do your own thing and have the confidence to do that, And that's one of the things that I really want to be able to teach my daughter that look, you have two options. You can follow the crowd, but this is most likely what's going to happen. Or you can just stick it out, be a little bit brave, have the confidence, and do your own thing, and believe in what you want to do and what you think is best for you, right? And head that route. This is what's going to happen, and so on and so forth. I agree with what you're saying. I think the Latino culture is very stuck in its ways for many reasons. You got immigration, you got political society status here in the United States, immigration status in the United States. A lot of things that play into that. But yeah, I just like you, I want to break that cycle. It can't be just, hey, this is what I was told, so I'm gonna tell you. Like, you know what I mean? We learn
Yeah,
for a
and
reason.
it's something. Yeah, and it's something that I think is going to happen over time. The more the community gets educated, the more they start thinking, the more they start being aware of themselves, and I think that's when yeah, people like us and hopefully like us, we break the cycle, and then our kids will continue that path, and maybe they'll even break some cycles that we have. That, like, for example, for me, um, I dropped out of college. Now thinking back, I'm like, well, I should have probably finished. And now, and I guess I can still I have that opportunity. My wife's dad is still going to college. He's gonna get his bachelor's degree. He got his AA. Like, so there's not. He's 50. There's not a time limit on it. But what I'm really after right now is understanding the world and understanding how things work, and even just understanding things. I feel like is a big a step forward in the right direction. When you understand why you're going to school, when you understand why you need to be saving your money instead of spending it, and all these critical things critical knowledge that we all need, especially living here in the U.S., we have to play the game. We have to play the game right, and there are rules to the game, and a lot of people, they're just not aware of the rules, or they choose to not see them. So yeah, I mean, um, yeah, man, those are all good points. Greg, what do you think? What do you think about what's something that maybe you're teaching your son now? I mean, because you have a boy. I think that most trouble comes from boys, from what I hear.
Well, I have a big backstory, but suffice to say, I live with my son, and he has a brother, so they had different dads. So now I live with his brother's dad. So now they get to live together in both his mom's home and in my home. So now rules have still changed though, because I have to tell my son, like, you're not allowed to do this, or don't do that, or you should try doing it this way. And so if his dad has it, if his brother's dad has a different view than I have to tell my son, like, let's not do that. Like, you don't follow the same rules he does. Like, I don't know how to explain it very well. Like,
Yeah, but
it's like,
I can see what you're saying, because that's three different teachers.
yeah,
That's he's learning from three different households. That's going to be very difficult for him. But if
two
I,
households. Oh yeah, no,
but
there's
you know
three
what I mean?
technically, I
Like
guess.
three
Yeah,
different perspectives, and whew, that's a tough one.
yeah,
But as
yeah,
long as you're consistent, I think that's gonna make the difference.
yeah.
Yeah.
And it's the same thing. Like, he was talking about respect to his wife, and I still make sure to show respect. Like, when it's his mom's birthday, he goes out. We go to the store. We buy a happy birthday mug. We put some candy in it or something, and or we draw a picture. Or if it's Mother's Day, like, there was one Mother's Day that she was working, so she wasn't gonna pick him up. So I drove down to her work and brought him in to say Happy Mother's Day. Like, even if can't get along, like, it's still his mom at the end of the day, and he still needs to know that there's should be respect anyways.
And that's what
Right.
kids are going to remember more than you buying a toy. You know what I mean? They're going to remember, hey, my dad. I remember my dad cared so much about my mom. Whether you did it or don't, I don't know. But that's what they're going to remember. I remember him that we used to drive to her room, to her, to her work, and just make sure that we acknowledge her birthday, So I think that's awesome. I think that's great. And I want to instill those same, like I said, basis to my.
Yeah, that's a good way to start, Greg.
Yeah, because it's the concept of the turn the other cheek. Like, you don't always turn the other cheek, but like, do it as many times as you can.
Gosh.
Yeah, growing up, my dad was, like I said in the beginning, my dad was an alcoholic, but I don't ever remember my mom saying, "Your dad's a bad person. Your dad this. Your dad did this to me." You know what I mean? She never said anything. My dad was the one that actually told me everything, and I was like, man, I props to my mom because she never nothing ever, So I didn't grow up with that resentment towards my dad. My resentment towards my dad became more of the actions that he did, and everything he did while he was with us. But yeah, I mean, and again, those are the type of things that I remember, and I practice on a everyday basis, and I intend to when my child gets here. Her name's Sophia too. So when Sophia gets here,
Oh, cool, man.
yeah,
I can't wait to see her, man.
yeah,
She's gonna be great.
she's gonna be a trip, man. She's gonna be interesting. I can tell you that right now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going back a little bit, you said that your mom never really badmouthed, or behind your dad's back or whatever. Why do you think that is? Because that happened to in our family. My mom, unfortunately, my dad passed away in '96. He was 46 at the time, 45 at the time, and yeah, I think he also had some traces of alcoholism there, and he never really. I think it was like in the drunken states where I would see the actions. I mean, I only knew him for 5, 6 years, so I wasn't really aware of what was going on. And he also traveled a lot. He worked here in the States, and he would go back to Mexico every 6, 7 months. So we only spent a little bit of time with him. Um, but again, like my mom never said anything about him. It was always like, "Oh, your dad's coming." Like he would always bring us toys. He would always send us money. We would have food on the table, even if it was the bare minimum. Um, yeah, and my mom always held him up like with a certain respect. And it wasn't until the later years when I started growing up that my mom opened up and said, "Yeah, your dad drank a lot. He was doing this, he was doing that." Um, yeah, but I'm not. Why do you think that is, Luis?
Now that I think about it, I think it all comes down from your childhood and what you grew up with. And my mom's dad, my grandpa, he was also an alcoholic.
Okay.
And she told me about all the time that she would help out my grandpa get away with things from my grandma, right? So she already had kind of like I wouldn't say a sweet spot or a tender heart for drunk people or alcoholics, but what I'm saying is that she already had that caring and nurture of taking care of somebody like that. You know what I mean? I
Right.
don't think I don't think she ever badmouthed my grandpa. I don't know about that, but I think that personal experience that she had when she was a child kind of contributed to what happened with my dad. You know,
I
that's
see.
that's part of it. I think the other part of it too is that my family grew up. My entire family, we grew up very faith driven, and there was a lot of prayer that took place, and even up to when we migrated to the United States, we always did that, and it still remains. And I think that my mom drives. I think she's more focused on the love of God, the love of Jesus, and the example that Jesus provided to the world. And I think that that's her main driver that kind of went that route to say, you know what, hey, I need to, there's no need for me to badmouth anybody, and I love this individual regardless of who he is and what he's done, and there's no need for me to instill any, negative thoughts on my kids about this. So
I understand. And also, it's the culture always was respect your elders, right? and
Right.
respect your. I mean, I don't know. Like when I got married, when we did the vows and everything, it felt different than the time that we went and signed a paper and we were considered married through the state or whatever. There was something deeper, something that it made me realize like, oh, that paper that we signed 3 years ago, that meant nothing. Like now, it's the time when it doesn't matter what we go through. We're gonna work it out. We're gonna more. I guess it was more faith driven now, and understanding that we're here for the long run. You know, so I think that has a lot to do with it. Like in our countries, how many like divorces do you see? Not many,
Yeah, it's true. Yeah.
right? So they also have that pressure, like, oh, you getting divorced? Like what? Your neighbors talking? Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I'm saying I imagine that there's also some social pressure there.
Right. Yeah,
Um,
I agree.
I looked up the divorce rate for California. It says it's 60%.
Why do you think that is, though? Why do you think that is, Greg?
I think it's because people do whatever they want when they want to do it, and they don't think of consequence. Is really what it comes down to. And then when it becomes, and also there's another thing I've noticed is people want what they want, and then they don't care about the consequence on the other side. So like, if I want a hamburger right now, but it's definitely gonna make me sick, but everyone else is eating it, I'm gonna still eat it. Because I don't care what happens later. Everyone else is doing it. I'm gonna do it. And then when you regret it later on, you're like, okay, screw this. You just move on to the next thing.
yeah,
And that's what happens enough.
I think that's one part, and the other part is like I mentioned, when you sign a paper. I mean, most of the people that are married, they're married to the state. They don't really have a. So one thing that I noticed when we got married was, it's not just the presence of God, right? It's also the presence of the community. Like you're doing your family, her family, your friends, her friends, everybody that you guys know are basically at the wedding, and they're kind of holding it to you that you're gonna treat her right, and she's gonna treat you right. And so when people go through that, and then I mean, it's so, even though it's hard to get divorced and it costs a lot of money, it's still pretty easy. Like it just means that you have to go through this sucky process temporarily until you find somebody else. And so having that option also, I think, is one of the reasons why we have such a high divorce rate. I mean, more than half. That's insane.
Yeah, I think that I didn't think about that. You're absolutely right. You're in front of your family and your friends. You're making a testament that you are going to be there for this person for the rest of their life. So you are held accountable by the families and friends to stay in this for the long run. You know what I mean? Yeah. Crazy.
Oh man,
But
one thing
yeah.
that my father-in-law told me when he walked her down the aisle, he's like, Marco, there are no returns. Oh man, it made me laugh because I already knew that, because it was something that I had already felt. It was also something that, leading up to the wedding, of course I was thinking that I'm like, this is permanent. But see, again, like what I grew up seeing my mom being so loyal to my dad. I mean, the loyalty was so immense. Even after my dad's passing, she never wanted to marry. She didn't really like to date. Like if she did, it was because maybe they seemed okay at first, and they seemed like they cared for us, but it was nothing ever serious or permanent or nothing. And till this day, like her loyalties, I still feel like it's to my dad, even though he's not here. You know, after well, 20 23 years. So that's something that I learned through my mom. You know that it's for the long run, whether
Right.
it's in life or death.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I was thinking with my mom. My dad passed away in 2012, and she's never thought about being with anybody else. And even my dad was gone from, I would say, on and off from 1984 all the way to 2002, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but never. I mean, she had opportunities. When we first came here, she was this young Latina with two kids, and this white guy wanted to do things, but she just wasn't having it. She didn't really that was not what she wanted to do. Her heart still remains, in love with my dad, even though he's not here. It's interesting.
That's very interesting. And then,
Yeah.
I mean, Greg, your parents have been together for how many years?
Long time. I don't know. I don't even know how old they are right now.
What?
I've always been bad with remembering ages and like all that.
But they've
I
been
wanna
there.
say-
They've been together for such a long time, right?
Yeah,
And even
my
when we-
brother is 30. What am I? He's 36, so more than 36 years. So I think it's close to 40 years.
Yeah, that's a long time. Wow. So, did you guys ever learn any important lessons from your fathers?
Yeah, don't talk back to him.
Is that something that you're teaching your kid?
No, I allow him to talk back because if he doesn't learn to talk back, then when can he draw the line? You know,
Yeah.
like there's a difference between talking back in a negative form and if I'm wrong. Like if I do something wrong, he needs to be able to say to me, "Why am I the only one allowed to say to him?" So that's
you're
something
more open, right?
yeah.
Yeah, that's good. What about you, Luis? Any like important life lessons? I mean, like for example, for me, I only knew my dad for 5 6 years, but the one thing is that I remember from him was how he treated my mom when he was sober. Because you know, maybe I didn't see him when he was drunk. I don't know, but when he was sober, he he called my mom la curra, which is like I guess the translation in English would be like a lady, like a beautiful lady, like a pretty lady or something like that. And it stuck. So now on my phone, like it's La Curra, like my mom. That's her name on my phone. That's what I put it down. And so that's something I guess I tend to do a lot with my wife now. Also, the work ethic, his work ethic, and then the most important one, now that I think about it, is that all his friends, even after death, told me how good of a person he was, how personable he was, and that's something that stuck with me. I think that's the biggest lesson that I've ever learned from him, even after death.
That's awesome. For me, the first thing that comes up is he would always tell me, always. He'd always say, "Tell me who your friends are, and I'll tell you who you are." He would always tell me that, and I took that to heart. And when I dated people, when I had certain friends, I always remember that him saying that, and it's been it's costed some friendships, it's costed some relationships, but it was for the best, and it makes total sense now. In regards to what you're saying, very similar to you. I saw both ends. I saw when he was drunk, and I saw when he was good, when he was sober. And when he was sober, my dad was like the most humble, personable individual you're ever going to meet. I mean, it was to the point where he would ask for forgiveness for things that he wouldn't even do wrong. It was just a very, very completely different than the drunk individual that I also got to see.
Right.
But so I remember that he would always tell me too, like, hey, be humble, because I was very full of pride, and I still am. There's a lot of work to do still, but he always he always remind me of that. You need to be humble. You need to come back down to earth, and you're gonna do great things, but you have to be humble. You have to be humble. But the biggest thing for me that he taught me, without him even knowing, was the early experiences in my life. Because his absence during certain years of my life, especially during high school, kind of forced me to grow up a little bit faster than my peers. In high school, while everybody was trying to get drunk, trying to get with girls, trying to get high, what most people do, right? Thinking about only their grades and so on and so forth. I was thinking about, hey, I need to pay the rent. He taught me how to drive when I was 11 years old because he wanted to drink and he wanted me to drive. You know what I mean?
Right.
And that's not something that he set out and said, man, I got to teach this kid, I can teach him life lessons. It's just something that he was thinking about, right? But that taught me a lot, So from 11 years old, I was driving already. When I got to high school, I was like, how am I going to pay this rent? My dad's gone. My brother, I got a little small brother. So I really grew up a lot very, very quick, which kind of added to my maturity and to be where I'm at right now. I think about the last relationships that I had. I always got along better with the parents or with the grandparents than with, the partner that I was with and their friends.
Right.
Because not because I thought I was better than them. It's just I just didn't have that connection with them. I was at a completely different age level,
Right.
And I think that his absence and everything that happened, he pretty much taught me all of that, So I'm very, very grateful. When he passed away, it's something that I really, really realized. I'm like, man, this individual has taught me so much, and I have to continue that. So I'm not going to be an alcoholic. I'm going to do it for my daughter, but but I'm gonna instill that, be humble, have faith, be humble, work for what you got, pay attention to your friends, all those type of things.
Yeah, that's a very important life lesson, man. That'll take her to a different level. Yeah, especially here in California, where most kids are growing up entitled and spoiled, and they don't really understand the world the way. I mean, I wouldn't say that immigrant kids. I mean, I don't know. I guess that's up for debate.
I know where you're going with this, and I would say it because that's another thing. Travel is going to be big once all this is done with, because you get perspective. You know what I mean? I got a chance to travel abroad or go to school abroad for 4 months, and I hung out with a bunch of 21-year-olds that in a completely different country, right? Not even a Latino country. It was in Eastern Europe.
And
talk to these kids, and these kids are talking like at a very mature level about what they want in life and all these other things, with the drinking, with everything else like what 21-year-olds want to do. But their mental capacity was a lot higher, unfortunately, than most of the kids here in California. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And you think back, and you're like, man, that's
because we're in a bubble, right? We're just we go from one place to another. We get used to the routine. We get used to the habits. We get used to these. We get used to the TV. It's just part of our life here.
So you have to be able to open your mind and do those things. But from a child's perspective, you can only open your mind as much as your parents are going to let you or going to expose you to.
Exposure. Exposure is a big one.
Yeah.
What do you think? Are you going to be traveling with your baby when she's here? I mean, maybe not in the first year, obviously, because it takes a lot of work. But what about maybe 3 years old?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I actually want to send her to live in El Salvador for a month.
Oh, that's great. I'm sure that would teach her a lot.
Yeah, and then I want her to leave to the Philippines for a month with her grandma.
Man, I from my boss. He knows a doctor whose kid has been to 42 countries, and she's 18. I think maybe now, maybe he told me that maybe 2 years ago. So maybe she's 20. So
Mhm.
imagine a 20-year-old who's been to 42 countries. Like I want to get to that.
Yeah.
Yeah. Um, so I wanted to ask you a little bit about um, your marine service that you did. What was the biggest lesson that you ever learned from that? I don't
Uh,
want to get too personal. I don't this I know this is a little uncharted, but if there's anything that you get from it that you can share that has to do in regards to fatherhood,
in
so we can
regards
stay on
to
the same topic. Yeah.
regards to fatherhood. Okay. Um, I think that from the military, what I learned the most when it related to fatherhood, but even in life, you have to have structure. Okay, you have to have structure and leadership. I think that's the biggest thing because what they teach you in there is you come in to boot camp and you come in with your own perspective of who you've been from the time you were born all the way to the age you're at when you get to boot camp, and they break you down completely, right? And they start when they start breaking you down, they challenge everything you know. They challenge all the. Now I'm gonna be honest with you, Greg. I didn't have any white friends when I joined the Marine Corps at all. By choice,
By choice.
But when I joined, I came across a lot of people like during boot camp. One individual told me, "Hey, go back to your country." And so I mean, all that stuff, you know.
Yeah.
And when I got to I was stationed in Twin Palms, I was rooming with the white guy, and I'm like, man, I never experienced this before, and I didn't know anything about country music or any of that, but I got exposed to it, and I started liking it, you know.
Yeah.
So it taught me that particular experience taught me that not everything that you know is necessarily true and doesn't have to be true for the rest of your life. But that's where leadership and confidence comes from,
Yeah.
But with that, though, when you have experience and you get exposed to certain things, you have to have the basic structure to be able to function and not screw things up either. You know what I mean? So when it comes to parenthood, it goes back to that. In the beginning, I have to set structure in order for her to understand that this is the way that this family does things, right? This is the way that your mom and I get along, and this is how we talk, and this is how we talk to each other. And there's no need for screaming. There's no need for this. There's no need for that. And that's what you're going to follow. And make it very clear that, and if you don't follow it, that's fine, but there are going to be consequences, right? There's accountability, there's a structure, there's everything that you have to do. But that time, when you get older, you'll be able to do that with your own kids, set your own rules, right? So I think that's the biggest thing that I learned from the military, and it applies to everything, work, social life, relationship, everything. I believe so. But structure would be the biggest thing, and that starts with, pretty much the basics. You have to start with the basics.
Yeah. Man, like just hearing that it makes me want to go back to when I was 18 years old and just join the military. Because now I'm like, oh man, like I need structure. Like today, I had to convince myself that in order to run this marathon that our friend Gilbert's setting up, that I needed to work out. I need to work out at least every day, even if it's active recovery. And it was tough to get out there, but once I did, I felt good. But it's like, it reminds me of, man, like you're not structured at all. There's you're it's always a, you do it today, then you forget tomorrow, then you do it the next day, and then you forget the next day, and it's like you got to be more consistent than that. Um, yeah, I mean, other than the military, I guess your parents would teach you that, right? Like, let's say you're a kid. Where would you get that structure? Martial arts,
Yeah,
parents, yeah.
I think so. And that's where again, I was talking about this to my wife the other day. I was like, when I joined the military, I just joined because I wanted to go do certain things. I know exactly what I wanted to do, but other than the military, I also wanted to be a pilot. I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to be a race car driver. Those were my top two.
Right.
I didn't know that to be a pilot in the military, which would have been my dream job, I had to get a bachelor's degree. I didn't know that. Nobody ever told me that. And I never asked because I never had that exposure,
Uh huh.
right? Or if I wanted to be a race car driver, I didn't know that there were schools that actually taught you how to be a race car driver, you know? But where would that come from? That would come from your parents, which my parents came from a third world country. That's not even a possibility out there.
Yeah.
It's very, very unlikely. So they came from a different country, different culture. They didn't know the language. They didn't know the society, the system, the culture here in the United States. But also, as a whole, when it comes to the education portion of it too, I don't know what the status, what the situation was back then, but the political status has a lot to do with it. The immigration status of myself as an immigrant here in the United States. I don't know how I was perceived by my teachers. I don't know if they were like, I don't know if you can make it. You know what I mean? I mean, a lot.
Yeah. Yeah.
But now that I'm gonna be a parent, now it's like, all right. That's why what I was saying, that I have to provide exposure to my daughter to let her understand that these are the possibilities. This is what can happen, and this is what cannot happen. It really depends on you, but here's the information. You do what you need to do with it. And I'm going to support you with whatever it is that you need to do, as long as it doesn't hurt you personally, right? Again, see that's where it's going to start. That's going to really get really interesting.
Yeah.
But
That's gonna be the biggest challenge. I'm sure.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. There's something that people have said about skaters. Like skateboarders.
yeah.
That
Mm-hmm.
a lot of parents don't like it, and on the other side, a lot of parents do like it because it teaches people how to, I guess, perseverance is what it shows them,
Mm-hmm.
how to keep getting up after they fall, how to get back on the board after they break a leg. And a lot of parents are scared that, oh, that you're gonna break a leg. That's not what we want. I don't want you to get hurt. But it really shows them how to get back on the horse after they've fallen.
Right.
And so, yeah, I guess that's something that, like, are you gonna be okay with your girl getting hurt? And like, how are you gonna handle that? That's a tough one.
Well, and that goes back to the military, right?
Yeah.
Especially in the Marine Corps, it's like you learn through pain and suffering. My best memories in the military were the times where my biggest number one memory that I really can. I mean, I hated that time. That was the only time that I could tell you. We were doing a firing range out in Pendleton,
Uh huh.
and it was raining. It was cold. It was windy. And we bed down for the night. We didn't even know, we couldn't tell. We ended up bedding down in the wadi, which it rained so bad that when we woke up, there was literally a very small but enough stream running down in the middle of everybody's stuff, and we were muddy, and it was so horrible. It was such a bad experience. It's cold, you're pissed off, you still have to hike back about 20 miles with 100 pounds on your back, and you're wet. And, I mean, it was bad. But those type of experiences kind of build you up, and it makes no sense for me to be very overprotective of my daughter and to survive in this world.
Right.
So I'm actually looking forward for her to get hurt, because that's going to teach her a lot. That's going to teach her more than anything I could ever say to her. You know what I mean?
Right. Yeah, that's a good point, man. Yeah, I for one, I think I was definitely sheltered, even though I came from, I came from Mexico. Back there, I mean, yeah, life there was different. I remember running around with no shoes. I remember walking out at night. I remember running through like the woods, you would call it. And with my brother, one time we got stuck in between a pack of coyotes, and they were literally like biting at our heels. I remember running from them on our bicycles. I remember that when we got to my sister's house, he was older. He must have been like 17, maybe 15. I don't know where he got the strength, but he threw our bicycles over. He threw me over the fence, and he climbed over. And if I had never gone through that experience, like I don't know, I probably would have been even more sheltered than I am now. So yeah, I really appreciated those times from back then. Yeah,
You
but it
know,
was tough.
yeah, and if you really think about it too, it's like you just talked about it right now. You were born in Mexico and you went through all of that. But think about all the other kids around the world that are suffering, going through worse things that
Oh
my
yeah,
daughter we go through here.
of course.
So I'm looking forward to her to actually getting hurt, and I'm gonna celebrate it. I'm gonna tell her like, look, hey, that's just what happens. This is what life is about. You're going to get hurt. It's not roses and strawberries all the time. It's not always pink. There are times where you're gonna have to make tough decisions. But that's why you have to have experience and have knowledge to be able to make the right decisions. And you might make wrong decisions every now and then, but the whole point is for you to make them, learn from them, and pick yourself back up.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, what do you think, Greg? You've been quiet a little bit.
Right, guys, hold on.
Uh, uh, I mean, Oliver, he gets hurt all the time. Like, it's actually this last week, I took him out on his bike, and he was perfectly fine. He got on, he rode his bike by himself. And then we were out there for like an hour, come back. The next day we go out to do the same thing. Gets his helmet on, pull out the bike, go to get him on it, and he goes, "No, I don't want to do it. I don't want to get hurt." And I was like, "He didn't even get hurt. Like, he didn't fall off once. Nothing. And now he won't even get on it. And there was nothing that I could do to convince him to get on it. And so I just took it and we went and did some sprints. So sometimes it's an influence of others or other things that happen
Right.
that control people's actions. So regardless if you put someone into a situation or like you let them get hurt, sometimes they may not even care.
Yeah.
Or sometimes they see someone else get hurt and they'll never want to try it.
Yeah. Something that I did with my boss's kid. For at one point, I was bringing him to Taekwondo, and on his first day, he was shitting his pants. He's like, I don't want to go. At first, this is what he told me. Like, Marco, I want to learn Taekwondo or I want to learn karate. I'm like, oh, really? Why? Why do you want to learn karate? He's like, so I can protect myself. I'm like, okay, that's a good point. I'm like, okay, let's go take you to Taekwondo or karate. Let's go find a place. So we signed him up for Taekwondo, but the first day he was shitting his pants all the way there. He was scared. I had to go and take him onto the mat, and he kept looking back like, oh man, like I don't know if I want to do this. I'm scared to get hurt. I'm like, but after the first couple of sessions, he sparred a little bit, and now he loves it. For Christmas he got like a punching bag, like so. It's definitely teaching him a really good lesson, man. Have you ever considered taking Oliver to martial arts?
No,
No?
not really.
Are you going to consider it after this conversation?
I don't think so.
How come?
He tells you that he wants to.
I mean, if he wants to, sure. But like, I'm not just gonna take him to do something just because I want to do it.
Yeah.
Yeah, because it's just like a lot of parents who are like, you're gonna play baseball when you get old enough. Like, okay, I'm gonna do it. Like, it doesn't do anything for them. Sure, maybe some of them will end up liking it. Like, who doesn't like hitting baseballs? But like, you gotta find their interests. I think that's something that I wasn't able to do growing up. Is I wasn't given the option to pursue my interests, and I think that's something that I still lack the capacity of doing to this day. Like, I don't pursue things that I'm interested in.
Now, do you think that, like what we were just talking about, like exposure? What about exposing him to different sports? What about like a tryout? Like take him to some free classes for martial arts, maybe some jujitsu, maybe some karate, maybe some taekwondo. And so if something sticks to it or sticks with him, um, yeah. I mean, yeah. What about like taking him, like you said, like riding a bicycle or playing soccer? I think it's a good way to socialize kids.
Yeah, he's got a lot of socialization right now.
Yeah.
He's in an early start program. He has an at home program. He has an in the clinic program, and then he lives in 2 different homes. So he's got friends in that home and in this home.
Now,
So
I mean, yeah, I don't know. I don't want to get too personal too, but something maybe. What do you think about structure? Would you think that structure would play a big role, especially if he's divided in like two different homes?
I mean, it can be, but what happens when he goes to the other home? You know, like, where does the structure go? You have to keep it as I
Consistent.
don't know. What, I guess you keep it consistent, but
I
it's
mean,
like,
I don't know. It's just something that not that I ever went to any martial arts classes, but the little that I know is that they always teach you that you have to respect. You know, you always have to teach people with courtesy. Uh, use your skills for self defense only. Like I don't know. I think there's a lot of structure in that maybe he can learn. I mean, and I'm just throwing ideas out there. It's not like you have to go out there and sign them up tomorrow. You know.
yeah. I don't know. I guess I can't really say that, but I haven't really known too many people who have done martial art type things. Like, Marcelo's the only one. So it's one of those things I just never thought about. Like, I don't enjoy wrestling or throwing kicks or throwing punches or even sparring against someone. Like, I never thought about doing it because I never enjoyed like seeing that.
Uh,
So it's not even something I ever really like thought about. I mean, you can get same kind of structure out of any team oriented thing. So
yeah.
like, and sure, there's different aspects of things. Like usually you're told in martial art type things to show respect in the way you talk, as well as uh, learning whatever it is. Where in, let's say, soccer, you're not necessarily taught respect. You're just taught, like, work as a team, to win, that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
So there's a little bit more in other aspects of life that you learn things. Like, I was in Boy Scouts. You could say the same thing there, but like same time, the reason I hated Boy Scouts had nothing to do with Boy Scouts. It had to do with me going to school in the Boy Scout uniform, being made fun of because I had shorts that were too short. Like, you know what I mean? Like, sometimes.
What years were you in Boy Scout?
It was in like, what was it? It was in elementary school, so I think it was like first to fourth grade, first to fifth grade, something like that.
Yeah.
My parents were the scout leaders, and my mom was a substitute teacher. So everyone at the school knew who she was. So I was her son, and everyone who did Boy Scouts were even closer to her. So like, everyone knew who I was, and now I'm the Boy Scout kid, and like I was the golden example, so I had to go to school in my uniform, and like it's just like things like that. Like,
Did you enjoy doing Boy Scout stuff?
what was it?
Did you enjoy doing Boy Scout stuff?
I mean, the Boy Scouts itself was fine and fun and all, but like the only thing I hated was having to wear the uniform thing. Like going to school in the uniform and everyone's just like, look at you, your shorts are short. Like, but like going on camping trips and learning how to use a knife and shooting guns and I don't know what else did we do. Like there were pool parties because you had to get your badges, so you had to like float in the water, the soapbox derbies, things like that. Like that was all fun, but it just came down to that whole going in front of your peers being made fun of for short shorts that I can remember.
You know something I noticed because this kid that I was taking care of or taking I was taking care of him. He also was enlisted in Boy Scouts, and at his school, if you weren't in Boy Scouts, you weren't one of the cool kids, which is funny. It's funny that you say that because that also has a lot to do with the community that you're in, right? Like if you go to a school where like none of the parents care, or the kids they'll be like, we're better than you because we don't go to Boy Scouts. But over here on this other side, if you don't go to Boy Scouts, you're not part of the community. You're not like the cool kid. I found that very interesting. I'm like, I'm like, damn, like, I thought about it. I'm like, damn, I wish I was in Boy Scouts. I mean, they're teaching you a lot of life lessons, and then the socializing and working as a team and working with your hands and how to shoot an arrow. Like that's all things that I'm interested in doing now as an adult. So from my perspective, it's like, oh, like when I have kids, definitely Boy Scouts.
See, and I think that you hit a very good point, and that goes back to the herd mentality. Regardless of where you're at in the world, or location, geographical location, there's always going to be that what everybody else is doing, what's the cool thing to do, and what deems you uncool. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
So providing that confidence, building that confidence in your child at a very early stage is going to minimize to have that in the future. You know what I mean?
Right.
That's what I think. I don't know how my daughter's gonna come out.
Yeah.
But that's you know what I mean. That's based on what I've experienced, and obviously you again you adjust to what you got. You make the best of it, but in general, that's what I see. The people who kind of stick out from the crowd are usually the ones that kind of make things happen if they're guided properly, and if they have the right confidence and the right mentorship and exposure to do so.
Yeah. Yeah. I also think parenting is going to be a lot of trial and error.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's like, how can a parent expect a kid to read every night when when they're just watching TV, or they're watching soap operas, or or watching movies, watching Netflix at night, drinking wine, watching Joe Exotic on Netflix, Yeah. So a lot of leading by example is something. Man, that's yeah. This is a good podcast, man, because I've learned a lot. Now that I'm preparing to have kids, and you Luis, you're on your way there. A month, you're like a month away, if that.
Yeah.
Greg's has been doing it for 3 years, and I'm getting ready. Within this year, maybe next year.
Really?
It's crazy
We'll
to
see,
think
man.
it's been 5 years here.
Yeah, I think it's an experience I definitely want to go through. Um, Something that I was just doing this course. I enlisted on this course from Aubrey Marcus, who is the founder of On It supplements. He's offering this course for people to find their passion, find their their purpose, find their things. And one of the things that that it, like there's a whole like questionnaire that you have to in a survey that you have to go do for yourself in order to find these things for yourself. And one of the questions was, what do you love about life? And for me, one of the top things was the weirdness of it all. You know, the weirdness of being a son, a brother, a husband, in the future, a father. And just it's an experience that maybe not everybody is fit to go through, or some people they don't even have to go through that to feel fulfilled, but it's something that I feel that I need to go through. So yeah, this year is a lot of preparation for that.
Man. And then when it comes, you'd be like, I don't even know why I prepared so much.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just doing what I can, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I,
uh
I, I, I get told all the time that I'm gonna be a sucker for her, and yeah, I mean I could see that, but I think overall I still have to, you still have to have that structure.
yeah, and I think that, yeah, I think you understand that very very well, especially through the training and the hard years, the hardship, you know.
Yeah.
You understand that the structure is going to get you to from point A to point B. So I guess now we're approaching our segment. You know, if you don't already listen to the podcast, please, we do a segment called Common Sense Not So Common. And we tend to ask our guests if they have any common sense for people that's not so common. Yeah, from your life experience.
Any common sense for people that is wait, any common sense that is not so common for people.
Yeah, like for example, today I've been thinking about this all day. The common sense it would be, in order to be healthy, you need to exercise. Yet, how many people exercise?
Hmm.
So that sounds like common sense. Like, hey, if you want to be healthy, you should probably exercise. But it really isn't that common that people follow it.
Hmm.
So yeah, something within those lines. Doesn't have to be perfect. It's just something that you would like to share with the world.
I would say that I would say common sense would be that that's not so common would be that you have to understand that everybody's got their own perspectives. So you have to have the common sense to listen to whatever people are telling you, but also, you know, have that critical thinking to understand that they have their own life perspectives that have influenced that what they're telling you or what you're hearing. You know, does that
Right.
make sense?
Yeah, that's a good point.
So it's not necessarily you can't in simplest terms you can't believe everything that you see, that you read, that you listen to, or what you're told. You just can't.
Yeah.
You go
That
there and look at it for yourself and make your own decisions.
Yeah, and I like that you said that, man, because that's a little bit about what this podcast is about. You know, I'm not a father and I'm giving father advice. Like, yeah, don't take my advice, people. You know, and then Greg's been doing it for 3 years. Like, you know, you're close to being a father. But it's having this I think it's having these conversations that are important, you know, because I for one have learned a lot through this conversation just here today. More than, you know, maybe all my life about fatherhood. Yeah, because I didn't really have it. So yeah, I mean that's a good point, Luis. Everybody has their own perspective,
Yeah.
and we have to respect it, and you know, not be so judgmental about them.
It have changed.
Yeah, do you guys have any other topics that you guys would like to go through today? I also don't want to take too much of you guys' time.
No, looking good.
No. Luis, I know that you've been doing a lot of art lately. Um, how's that going? Are you still working on that or what?
Oh yeah, oh yeah. So a lot of things have taken place, but when it comes to art, it goes back to what we're talking about right now. That you have that herd mentality, right? And everybody's telling me, man, you gotta move fast, you gotta do it, you gotta do this, you gotta do it that way. I found myself taking my time and just really kind of studying myself when it comes to what I really want to do with my art, right? And one of the things that I've come to realize is that it's not so much that I want to sit there and paint all day. What I actually want to do is I want to create things. And when I say that create things, I mean I want to be able to have the freedom to create through in a piece of paper, in any environment that I'm in. You know what I mean? In a 9 to 5 job, when I'm cooking, I'm creating. When I'm taking a picture, I'm creating. When I'm talking to somebody, I'm gonna create something, right? And that's what I really want to do. That's just my passion. The fact that I draw is just a very honed skill set that I've actually, pretty much kind of perfected throughout my years. But I don't want to sit there and just draw for the rest of my life. I want to create. I want to create meaningful things. So that's the path that I'm taking with my art. But I created a website. And I haven't released it yet because I don't like what it says yet. I don't have that warm and fuzzy. And I'm like, man, it's gonna be a good website. Even though everybody's telling me, man, you should release it, just release it, just release it. For me, I want to make sure that if I'm gonna put out something, it's going to be what I want, and I'm gonna be proud of it. Not for everybody else to be proud of it. I want to be proud of it.
Okay.
And that's kind of like it's really shaping things. Without really doing a lot of marketing or anything like that. My artwork has, it's gone through the roof, dude. Just to let you know, within the last 4 days, I made a lot of money, and it wasn't that much effort. And it's not like trying to serve anybody. It's just doing my artwork and doing what I love, without even needing marketing or anything like that.
Yeah,
so I
that's
can imagine where it's gonna go.
yeah, that's wonderful, man.
Yeah.
I love it. I can't wait to see the website. You have to share with me.
It's gonna be good. It's gonna be good.
So for people that may want to follow your the art that you're putting out there, can you want to plug in your Instagram at the very least? I know you don't want to give out your website at the moment, but at least give out your Instagram so people will know how to. People have an idea what you've been doing.
Yeah, so my Instagram is Mr.Lopez_0311, and that you're gonna see a lot of military artwork there, but that's not the only thing that I do. I do a lot of things, but most of it right there is gonna be all military portraits and military artwork.
And for people who don't know, you're actually the one that helped me design our first logo, the thought process. Yep. So I love it. It's still sitting here in my office.
Nice.
Maybe once this is all over, we can have you as a guest here in the studio and have an actual in-person conversation. Although I love talking to you guys. I love even though we're miles away, I love that we still get to do this, and I appreciate you guys' time. So if you guys don't have anything else, I'm gonna read a little excerpt from The Heart of Buddha, just to close out the podcast.
Alright.
Okay. Okay, here we go. Heart of Buddha. In the light of his vision, he has found his freedom. His thoughts are peace. His words are peace. His work is peace. So, and with that, we're going to end today's episode. I want to thank you again, Luis, for taking the time. I know that you've probably been really busy preparing for the baby. I want to congratulate you again, and I can't wait to see pictures, and hopefully we can, sometime soon can come by and see you guys in person.
Definitely. We'll have to do that. Thank you for having me, and I appreciate these podcasts all the time. It's always a good conversation with you guys.
Awesome, man. Thanks
Thank you.
again. You too,
Appreciate it.
Greg. Take it
Yeah.
easy, guys.
All right.
Have a good one.